General Studies 3. Topic: Conservation, Environmental Pollution and Degradation. World Bank Report on Climate Change. 1. Introduction. Climate change seems to be one of the greatest threats to the growth potential of the Indian economy, according to a report published by the World Bank. The report, titled South Asia's Hotspots: The Impact of Temperature and Precipitation Changes on Living Standards. To key findings: rising temperatures and changing monsoon rainfall patterns from climate change could cost India 2.8% of GDP and depress the living standards of nearly half the country's population by 2050. The 2.8% drop in GDP, as projected in the business as usual scenario, will cost India $1.1 trillion by 2050. Almost half of South Asia's population, including India, now lives in the vulnerable areas. Central, northern and northwestern India as a regions are most vulnerable to climate change. Inland regions are at far higher risk of economic losses due to rising temperatures than coastal or hilly areas. States of Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh could see a decline in living standards of up to 9%. 7 out of the top 10 most affected hotspot districts would belong to the Vidarbha region of Maharashtra. About 600 million people live in areas which could turn into moderate or severe hotspots of climate change. Even if India follows the plan enunciated by the Paris Climate Change Agreement in 2015, the temperature rise would still be by 1 to 2 degrees Celsius by 2050. If no measures are taken, average temperatures in India are predicted to increase by 1.5 to 3 degrees. Cities like Kolkata and Mumbai face a substantial risk of flood-related damage over the next century. 3. Significance of the report. These are the findings of a first-of-its-kind World Bank study that quantifies the economic impacts of rising temperatures and changes in rainfall in different parts of the country. The report provides options to prioritize investments and strategies to build local resilience to climate change. Identifying hotspots will help policymakers in finding specific locations and household types where the resources are needed the most to address the rising risk to living standards. The information will be useful for designing a social welfare program at the national level. For what is climate hotspot? It's a location where gradual changes in average temperature and rainfall patterns will have negative impacts on living standards in future. 5. Impact. Global warming could mean loss of livelihood, potentially depressed incomes, forced migration, rising morbidity, etc. Fall in agricultural yield, greater food insecurity, lower labor productivity and health impact. These weather changes will result in lowered per capita consumption levels, further accentuate problems like inequality and poverty in South Asia. Weather changes will have a negative impact on living standards and water-stressed areas will be most adversely affected. 6. Concerns/challenges. India as a country has been ranked one of the most vulnerable countries to climate change. Temperature rise is a slow-moving disaster that's not talked about much. A lot of focus of climate change studies is on extreme events, so people tend to ignore the gradual changes happening for the last 50 to 60 years. 7. Way forward. The report suggests enhancing educational attainment, reducing water stress, and improving job opportunities in the non-agricultural sectors. A 30% improvement on these measures could halt the decline in living standards by almost 1%. Invest in areas that are more impacted by global warming. Countries need to adopt climate resilience strategies along with climate change mitigation. 1. India should rally for more stringent GHG emission reduction and bring policies for efficient and accountable water usage. The government must stop incentivizing farmers to grow water-intensive crops in water-stressed areas by weaning MSP away from these crops in such areas. It is imperative that water stress be reduced and opportunities in non-agricultural sectors are increased. If we don't focus on adaptation, we will see an erosion of development gains.